everyone, I'm Faustine. Maybe you know me as tokyoïte. I'm on TikTok, maybe that helps. And I made a video not that long ago on TikTok about my Japanese university, and I got quite a few comments, a few questions. People were in my Instagram DMs, so I thought, why not make a video on how I applied and how I got into a Japanese university? Maybe that will help some of you guys. Maybe some of you guys are just curious, but I know that for me, when I applied a few years ago, it would definitely have helped to have that kind of video. Even if it's not going to help you with the process, maybe it will help you get more confident in applying. Yeah, maybe. I hope it will do one of those things at least. Anyway, let's get started. A few disclaimers first. I applied to international programs only, so all in English, not in Japanese. If you want to study in Japanese, you will need at least your JLPT N2 and the EJU. But I'm really not knowledgeable on that, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. But yeah, at least you know that studying in English in Japan is an option, and it's more and more available now. So check the G30 program if you're interested in finding what universities offer programs in English. There are a bunch now, and yeah, that'll probably help. Also, second disclaimer, it was more than 4 years ago, so things might have changed, the entry conditions, so please make sure to check the university and programs webpage to make sure of all the application requirements. Obviously things constantly change. Anyway, so I applied to Sophia's FLA, or Faculty of Liberal Arts, and Waseda's SILS, so School of International Liberal Studies, I think. And I got offers from both. But let's get into the application process first. So for both universities, if you're not from an English-speaking country, you'll need to take the TOEFL or the IELTS. TOEIC is definitely not enough. There are like few exceptions. Maybe like if you've studied for the last 6 years in English, then they'll let you just not take the TOEFL. But you need to prove that you studied in an English environment, English-speaking country. That wasn't my case, so I took the TOEFL. And had I known, I would have taken the IELTS. Then for Sophia, I took the SAT. They also accept the ACT and IB. Waseda is the same. If you're not familiar with what the SAT and ACT are, they're like uni entrance standardized exams in the States mostly, but they're recognized by other universities around the world. So Sophia only accepts the SAT or ACT or IB, which is the International Baccalaureate. If you're from France, this is different from the OIB. Also, the little difference with Waseda and Sophia for the SAT is that you'll need the essay part for Waseda, but you don't need it for Sophia. I wasn't careful enough and I didn't see that, so I took it without the essay because I couldn't be bothered. But fortunately for me, Waseda accepts a bit more like graduation exams, diploma, I guess, which includes the French baccalaureate, which I have. If you're from Germany, the Abitur, Spain, Bac. Anyway, they accept a bunch more graduation exams. I don't really know how to call them, but anyway. So I'm not sure which one exactly they accept or not, so please make sure to check that. Anyway, that's how I managed to apply. I also like sneaked copies of my SAT in my application because I was just like, yeah, you know what, I still want them to see my scores. And you also need a certificate of graduation. If it's not in English or Japanese, you'll need to have it translated. You also need your high school transcripts translated as well if it's not in English or Japanese. So I personally had like actual translator translate my certificate of graduation, so my French baccalaureate. But because translators are very expensive, what I did for my transcript is that I translated them myself. I think I had my high school stamp them, and as well as the city hall, so it was like kind of like approved, and it went through like perfectly. They don't care that much. Just have like kind of like some official stamps on them if you're gonna do that, and obviously also put a copy of the original one with it. And for Sophia, I also needed 2 recommendation letters. I don't think I needed any for Waseda, but I'm not too sure. And I also had to write a motivation letter or a personal statement. I don't think Waseda required those, but Waseda had us write like a short essay. And when I say short, it was really short. It was like 600 words. I was like, what's the point of even writing it? They have a bunch of topics you can choose from. You can just write on whatever you want, just submit it with your application, and that was it. But I might be forgetting a few things, and I feel like their requirements have changed when I last checked. So please just check everything. They have like a very detailed PDF with all the requirements and just do everything like they say. And then obviously I had to submit like personal information about me, a copy of my passport, and like a bunch of other information to get a student visa, because if you're not a Japanese citizen, you'll need a student visa. Quite obviously, you can't go and move to Japan without a visa. Also, I was applying for the April 2017 entry. I graduated high school in July 2015, and then I started going to uni to France, and in 2016, like early 2016, that's when I realized that's not what I wanted to do. And so I took my TOEFL in April, and then in May and June I took my SAT. And don't worry, if you're not in the US, you can take the SAT anywhere in the world, I think, or like in a bunch of countries. I took it in France. Then I got all the rest of the paperwork ready, motivation letter, the essay, everything. And the applications opened late August, early September. So that's when I mailed everything in. Be careful about that. I don't know if it's the case like right now, because obviously weird times, but yeah, I had to mail everything. It's not online, like you can't just upload your documents and everything, which means you have to be careful about the deadlines for your documents to arrive in Japan and to the school, because I don't think they'll be too forgiving about that. So just make sure you have everything ready. Also, they might ask you for a few more things. That was the case for me with Waseda. That's a bit stressful as well, because you're like, what if something happens to my package? What if something happens to my documents? You never know. Anyway, and then I got the results for Waseda in like early mid-October, and then I got the results for Sophia in early November. My first choice was Sophia, so I went there. You don't need to answer them immediately, but there's a deadline for you to tell them if you're going or not. Be careful about that. And there are also like deadlines to apply to the dorms and everything, so just keep that in mind. A lot of deadlines, it's a bit stressful, but everything will go well. You're probably wondering what my grades were like before I applied. So you probably guessed, but I'm French, and I was in like an international section kind of when I was in high school, but they didn't give me the IB. My graduation diploma is still a French baccalaureate, but with like kind of like A levels on top of that. So I guess that was like a proof that I was like hard working. I think that helped a little bit, but like other than that, I think my GPA is like a bit above average, but definitely far from being like excellent, you know, because I remember like finding like I think it was the French consulate in Miami who put that out. It's like a grading scale, like comparing the French grades and the American grades, and I think I was around like A minus. It was like around 13 in France, or 13 out of 20, a bit above 13, between 13 and 14, which is far from bad. Hopefully that comforts you guys, but don't worry, because like people who had worse GPA than me got in, and it's not only based on the GPA, it's also your motivation letter, what your recommendation letters will say about you. They take a bunch of things into consideration. Everything will be fine. I think that's it. Let me know in the comments if you have more questions, and also let me know if you would like me to make like a review video kind of my experience in Sophia University, kind of go over like this 4 years there. And yeah, I think that could be fun because I'm graduating next month, so it could be a nice thing to do. Anyway, I hope this helped you guys somehow. I'll see you soon for another video. Please leave a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe for more videos. Bye!